1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3
Can you take it down the back? Thanks. To the side would be great.
1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3
Nu miri, yüksek.
Ara giriyor. Açma.
1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 გამარჯობა 1 2 3
1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 1 1 1 1 1
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your places. We are starting the conference. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Thank you.
Batumi International Conference, Georgia's European Way, has already become an important discussion forum for the high-level officials and the civil society representatives in the European Union and Eastern partner countries.
The GovGe is the partner of Batumi, Georgia's European Way Conference. I'm very proud of that.
This year, the conference will concentrate on the regional challenges and security architecture, on the economic sustainable development and the energy diversity in the European Union and its eastern neighborhood.
We want to offer our 11 years experience of GovGe to make Georgia European Way Conference a true success.
I'm delighted to welcome GovGe as our main partner for the Batumi International Conference. Looking forward to welcoming you in Batumi, Georgia's summer capital. Good morning and welcome to Batumi. Dear Prime Minister, dear Commissioner, distinguished guests, Excellencies, dear colleague ministers, ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to open the 13th International Conference, Georgia's European Way, and together with our team we will try to create a forum to address current geopolitical, economic, security challenges in the region as well as generally in Europe. The coming 2 days are full of interesting topics and events, discussions and presentations to cover the growing list of events on our common agenda. This year we celebrate 25 years of regaining Georgia's independence, and just a couple of weeks ago the association agreement has fully entered into force. This is yet another significant milestone on Georgia's paving its European way for deeper and broader relations with the European Union. This year, we are privileged to host this event together with the GovGe Policy Institute, and I want to thank our Slovak friends and partners for their active engagement and support during Slovak presidency of the EU Council. Thank you. I'm delighted to see the interest towards the conference growing year from year. and I want to thank our partners and co-hosts for their contributions. And with that, let me ask the President of GlobSec, Ambassador Kacer, who makes part of a new generation of Slovak diplomatic elite that have made their mark in Europe and perhaps increasingly in the global diplomacy, to address you with his opening remarks. Dear Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Thank you, David. Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Commissioner, Mr. Speaker of the Parliament, I want to speak very briefly because we are all interested in hearing the Prime Minister and Commissioner to talk. But first of all, David, let me thank you for a very kind introduction. It's been a pleasure and an honor for all of us at GlobSec, but not only in GlobSec, but all wider community which GlobSec is drawing around to support Georgia. As I said in a brief comment, we want to make not only this conference, but Georgia successful. I feel a lot of inspiration when I come to this country and when I see this nation. You've been a small nation, but nation with an extremely rich history, with proud heritage, being in a very, well, beautiful, but geopolitically very hot place on the earth. I always feel inspired by your persistence, by your courage, by the ability to defend your values. And I know it's very hard sometimes, in particular for politicians, and I have to praise politicians for ability to mobilize, alert, and motivate people, because sometimes we feel we walk in the tunnel, we want to see the light in the tunnel. And we often seem like seeing the end and the light at the end of the tunnel, but we want to be sure that the light at the end of the tunnel, it's not a fast train approaching from Moscow to Batumi at a high speed and it's going to hit us in the face. So not only with the GlobSec community, but I mean all countries in Central Europe and European Union, I wish Georgia success. Conferences like this bring outer community to Georgia, but also bring Georgia out. So I wish success to all of you. And Mr. Prime Minister and Commissioner Hahn, now floor is yours, and we are all anxious to listen to your remarks. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we seek a return to Europe, European and Euro-Atlantic aspirations represents the strong and unwavering will of the people of Georgia, but also it has become a very strong political ambitions for our government, where we aim to build a strong, democratic and secure European state. This choice is cemented in the Association Agreement and DCFTA, and with the very strong and effective implementation of these important instruments. Government's serious commitment to that has not gone vain, and concrete outcomes have been delivered in numerous areas, including good governance, independence of judiciary, protection of human and property rights, penitentiary, media, healthcare, agriculture, and so on and so forth. Georgia has significantly advanced in the democratic transition, and we are facing the period of democratic consolidation. On that note, I want to thank Prime Minister Georgi Kvirikashvili for his energy to support Georgia's ambitious European agenda. And I would like to invite him for a keynote address. Prime Minister, the floor is yours.
Thank you, David. Commissioner Hahn, distinguished guests, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Batumi. I think it's important that we hold this very important conference here in this beautiful city. Batumi is a very European city, the crossroads of Greek, Roman, and Ottoman civilizations from ancient times. Today it hosts one of Europe's major ports of entry and exit to the new Silk Road of Eurasia, connecting China and the East to Europe and the West. In the next several decades, Batumi will become the cockpit of trillions of dollars in trade between Europe and East, Europe's eyes and ears on the dynamic economic forces reshaping our continent. Our view from Batumi embraces Turkey, Romania, Bulgaria, Ukraine, and our Black Sea partners and NATO members. Batumi is Europe, and it will increasingly represent a powerful pulse of Europe's health, its wealth, and its future. It is both appropriate and foresighted, therefore, that this 13th Batumi International Conference convenes in this important European city. I am honored to welcome you to Georgia, and I hope you will take time to explore the history and beauty of our country, its cultural treasures, its famous food and wines, and all the unique pieces of our common European home. Georgia is Europe. Everywhere you travel while in Georgia, you will hear this declared passionately by Georgians from all walks of life. This is not a newfound belief, nor a new faith adopted because it is the fashion of the day. Georgians are not a nation from somewhere else who are now trying to turn themselves into something they have never been. Georgians are Europeans. Our culture testifies to Georgia's deep European roots and influences. Our history is linked forever to Europe's. Europe is our past, and Europe will be our future. Of course, it is not enough simply to say it or to make it happen. We understand this, which is why Georgians are dedicated to doing all that is required and more to become more and more European with its institution, with its legislative framework. And I am certain you will agree that our progress is impressive. I am pleased to confirm that Georgia is making steady progress in implementing the Association Agreement and the Deep and Comprehensive Free Trade Area Agreement. The agreement represents our roadmap for reforms in the economy, the environment, energy, industry, transport, consumer protection, and many other areas. We have already overhauled our legal systems aggressively. We have fulfilled all visa liberalization requirements according to the European Commission and the European Parliament. Moreover, we met and applied many of the agreement's provisions even before the agreement officially entered into force. In the spring of 2015, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development was forced to review growth projections for our region. Georgia was an exception to a quite gloomy picture. On the one hand, because we are the only economy in the region that has a wealth of trade partners. On the other, because we are developing an economy that is diversified, flexible, that adds value and quality year on year. Georgia is a success not only as a nation, but also as a model encapsulating European and American best practices. This October, Georgia is moving towards legislative parliamentary elections, which the polls suggest will be highly contested. We have conducted successful free presidential and local elections, and we will complete the circle with the legislative elections. Meanwhile, Georgia halved the prison population, depoliticized the police force and public prosecution, armored the independence of the judiciary with life tenure and peer-to-peer regulation and oversight, consolidated best European and US practices for the safety and impartiality of jury trials. Georgia is no longer a place where what counts is who's counting. This progress is due primarily to the efforts of Georgian citizens, but it was boosted significantly by the support of many governments and European institutions represented here today. Your experience, advice, and assistance has been pivotal. On behalf of all Georgians, I thank you. We are deadly serious about Georgia becoming full member of the EU. Yet we learned on the 23rd of June that no one in Europe should take further integration for granted. Centrifugal forces are strong in a number of the EU member states. We would be foolish to turn a blind eye to these powerful dynamics, which is why we applaud the European Council's decision 2 weeks ago to convene a special meeting in Slovakia in mid-September to review the future of European integration. I assume that these discussions will attempt to understand why bleeding is occurring and how to slow or stop it. We urge EU members to understand that Georgia's commitment to Europe represents not a new problem for the EU to solve, but a visible demonstration of everything right with the Union. Georgia does not mean more injury to the EU. Rather, it is a useful tourniquet to injury occurring elsewhere. It is hard for us to imagine a better advertisement for defending our unique European values than Georgia's passionate desire to share them wholly. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not the time for the EU to turn inward, to become consumed by injuries to our body while ignoring its vibrant, healthy parts. We very much hope, therefore, that the process of Georgia's approximation to Europe will be accelerated. Among the latter, Georgia is both healthy and vibrant. Another important meeting was held in the past few days, the NATO summit in Warsaw, which took place against the background of the continuing instability in Ukraine. I think you are all aware of the substantial contribution that Georgia has made in Afghanistan. We are also doing our part in many other areas important for Alliance. This was recognized by the NATO Secretary General when he visited Georgia last year and said that Georgia was an example in the region and beyond of carrying out democratic reforms, adding that Georgia already has the necessary tools to make progress towards NATO membership. Similar statements have been made after the NATO-Georgia Commission last week. As a result of this summit, Georgia has broader cooperation format with Euro-Atlantic Alliance, and we can proudly say that Georgia has all the tools and instruments to boost its defense capability and to engage in the security dialogue in the Black Sea Basin. We are deadly serious about Georgia becoming a full member of the EU, and I think that this commitment is infiltrated in the whole political establishment in Georgia, in governmental as well as in opposition political forces. One needs only to look briefly around our region to understand why Georgia, as an integral part of Europe, enhances its overall security. Georgia is Europe's borderland. It is an anchor of Black Sea stability. It is the centerpiece of much of the region's energy transport to Europe. And as I mentioned earlier, it is becoming the principal gateway for Europe's vital trade with China and the East. In all of this, Georgia is a democratic island of stability, European culture, and increasing prosperity. Does it not make sense for Europe to strengthen the forces in Georgia and themselves strengthen Europe's security? By this measure, the logic of EU integration for Georgia and full NATO partnership seems self-evident. And it seems equally logical that the conflicts around us will be harder to solve and hence more dangerous for Europe without these strong partnerships. The situation in Georgia's territories of Abkhazia and South Ossetia are especially concerning, not least because both lack any international monitoring on the ground. In fact, the EUMM is denied access to the occupied territories and thus cannot fulfill its mandate. We must therefore redouble our efforts to restore a comprehensive OSCE presence in Georgia. The signing of the so-called treaties with the Sukhumi and Shinwali occupation regimes in 2014 and 2015, respectively, as well as the recently announced plans for a referendum in Shinwali region regarding its succession to the Russian Federation, are clear demonstration of Russia's annexation policy and may lead to grave consequences, not just for Georgia, but for the entire region. It is short-sighted to see this only as a Georgian problem. We will not be provoked, but neither we will capitulate. On the contrary, we will continue our efforts to restore confidence, promote reconciliation, and consolidate Georgian, Abkhazian, and Ossetian societies in one country. Dear friends, allow me to offer some of my own thoughts about the future of Europe and perhaps an idea or two for the conference. People often forget what is unique about the EU. Never in history have so many nations come together to share sovereignty in so many areas. The EU, despite all its challenges, remains a vivid example to other parts of the world of the benefits of regional integration, whether in Asia, Africa, or Latin America. This is why I have instructed all our ministers to enhance the knowledge of the EU's many benefits to our citizens. And here let me pay tribute to David and his staff for their tireless efforts in this direction. By the way, he's so good at it that he can be invited in some of the European countries to do the same. Here is the Europe we see and will work to preserve. A Europe that is open, tolerant, and relevant to citizens. A Europe that is both self-confident and humble. A Europe without walls or barriers. A Europe that invests for its own security so to be able to promote peace and stability elsewhere. In a word, a Europe whole and free. Politicians must have vision, and they must be effective in explaining that vision to their citizens. Europe is my vision, and Georgia in Europe is our citizens' mission. This is what we believe. I know many of you share Georgia's vision and will indeed contribute ideas for realizing it during your discussions today and tomorrow. Historically, Batumi is known as a potent ideas factory. So be bold, be free, be European. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister. The note taken. To quote the Prime Minister Churchill, who has once said that one may notice the tendency that sometimes we produce more history than we can consume. When it comes to the multiple variables, when it comes to the interest accommodation, sometimes one sees that, and one can argue that Brussels is becoming as interesting a place as Tbilisi. Europe is dealing with a never-ending of categorical yes or no questions on very highly complex issues. That challenge concerns us. How Europe sees itself, the kind of relations fostered between member states, how it affects the role, weight, and perception of Europe, and as associated countries, we are also very much concerned for the good reason. Today, we are very much privileged to have an opportunity to listen to His Excellency Johannes Hahn, the Commissioner for European Neighbourhood Policy and Enlargement Negotiations. Commissioner, once again, we are grateful for your attendance, and we are looking forward to listen to your opening remarks.
Dear Prime Minister, Speaker of the Parliament, Ministers, Ambassadors, colleagues, parliamentarians from Georgian Parliament, but I've understood there are at least some colleagues from the European Parliament and maybe even from other parliaments. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really delighted to be here in Batumi, and I've understood it's a conference taking place for the 13th time, but the number of participants has been doubled since last year, and this is an acknowledgement about the value of this conference and the impact going from this conference to the discussion not only inside the country but also through whole Europe. And it's also a hub on discussions concerning European affairs in the region, in the wider region, and it has once again an impact on the broader Black Sea region debate. And it was already mentioned, there was just recently the NATO summit, and following this we had, fortunately I would say, a first encounter between NATO and Russia after several years, and I think this is also a good sign about positive developments, confidence-building measures in the region. In my presentation today, I would like to focus on three key themes. First, on security issues. Second, on the implementation of the already mentioned association agreements. And thirdly, the role of this important region for Europe's economic development. But before I address those issues, of course, and it was said by the Prime Minister, also by the Minister for European Affairs, I think it's important to say a few words about the situation, the current situation in Europe, and I've also understood this decision by the British people has caused a lot of irritation here in the country, what it means for the future perspective, what it means for the security architecture in Europe, and but also what it means for the relationship of Europe with its neighbors. And may I use the opportunity to reassure you that although Europe is entering definitely a difficult phase, that it would be ignoring the facts, I think it's important to reassure you that the European Union is sticking to the commitments that it has made with its partner countries in the neighborhood. There will be no change in our relations, in our intensity to deal with you, to work with you, and to work in particular on your European perspective. A wise man has once said, geography is destiny, and you stay as our neighbors. Brexit, yes or no, you are our neighbors, and we have a strong interest to tighten further our relation with you, to support you in your initiatives towards the European Union, but also to play an important role here in the region, because this is also very crucial for us in the European Union. For us in the European Union, stability in our neighborhood, in the east, in the south, is the overarching goal. And our policy is driven and inspired by the necessary measures to guarantee and, if possible, to further improve this stability aspect. And in that respect, be once again reassured that we will support all your efforts. And may I say, for our own sake, for our own interests. And in that respect, we are sitting in the same boat, and therefore there was a decision, and nobody can say how the future will look like. We are at the beginning, or not even at the beginning, of negotiations. This will take time for the first time, so nobody can really predict the outcome, but from the European Union perspective, we are interested to have good but also fast discussions to arrive to a solution. And the aim is, of course, to create a very friendly and deep relationship with our friends in Great Britain. and this will also contribute to the security dimension of the European Union with the necessary and important effects for Georgia. So we will discuss certainly all these issues in a spirit of joint ownership with you, and it's important that we focus in all our efforts, in particular on the economic development, but also on energy security, connectivity, security in a wider sense, migration and mobility, as well as governance. Progress in all these areas will help us to change the lives of citizens for the better, bringing jobs and growth and therefore stability. What are the challenges of European modern security architecture? So, the strategic environment of the European Union has changed dramatically over the past years. Challenges to our security today need a response that combines aspects of internal and external policies. The European Global Strategy, which we have just presented to our member states, will help the European Union to be more effective in tackling challenges such as energy security, migration, but also climate change, terrorism, and hybrid warfare. In times of turmoil, we need to stand together internally on security and defense and take responsibility in our surrounding regions to promote resilience and to address conflicts and crises. To overcome fragility and to promote peace and prosperity, we are working with partners to build more resilient states and societies to the east, but also to the south of the European Union. But security, for me at least, means also stability in the European neighborhood, as I have already referred to it. And stabilization becomes the key word of our reviewed neighborhood policy, consequently, as I have said, looking into the situation in our neighborhood. But there is a new emphasis on this stability element. It's economic development. By using economic development, that means the European Union and our neighbors, can create the conditions in which some sources of instability and insecurity, like conflict, radicalization, and irregular migration, can be avoided. And I know this view is shared by the Georgian government, and it's good if the Prime Minister is not only a former foreign minister, but he was for some years also Minister for Economy. So you cover exactly the areas which, at least from our point of view, are so important. The 1st of July, so a couple of days ago, was an important date in our relations with Georgia, as on that date the association agreements are now fully entered into force. For Georgia, some results are beginning to emerge. In 2015, total trade between us amounted to 2.58 billion euro. This represents a small increase compared to the previous year. Still, the increase in itself is a positive sign, considering the overall economic slowdown in neighboring countries of the region. Deep and comprehensive free trade agreement and its implementation is progressing. Most of Georgia's first-year DCFTA commitments have been fulfilled. Congratulations. And I would like to take this opportunity to express my appreciations to our Georgian friends for all the hard work that has been done to achieve this. But a considerable amount of work remains to be done. Georgia chose to implement most of its approximation commitments at a later stage, starting from the third year of the application of the DCFTA, That means as of 2017. This means that some important trade issues will need to be addressed in the not too distant future. And may I say, to, so to say, adapt DCFTA is not only the task of the government, it also needs a strong and committed engagement of the Parliament and, of course, of the whole society. It's not, so to say, something which refers to a couple of people, but this is an exercise which comprises many, many people, and it depends on their commitment to implement all the necessary measures. And we are talking here about hundreds, not to speak thousands, of regulations, modifying laws, etc., implementing things. And for instance, one such topic is technical barriers to trade. There, Georgia is already making great progress, in particular when it comes to adopting European standards, which will accelerate the modernization process of Georgian industries, both those exporting to the European Union and those operating in Georgia's domestic market. And may I say, if you comply with European technical standards, in order to have access to the European market, you will have automatically access to many, many parts, if not to say even all parts of the world, because in that respect, Europe is a hidden champion. Many of the global technical standards are European standards, have been transferred into global standards. So if you meet the requirements in technical areas, you can make a huge progress in your efforts to, so to say, conquer other markets, not only the European ones. But another important subject is public procurement. Putting the right legislation in place is, of course, a major step, but implementation and enforcement are top priorities when it comes to building stable foundations for predictable institutions and independent regulators. But you are not alone when facing all these challenges, fortunately, may I say. The European Union is providing a substantial amount of assistance already and will continue to do so in the next years to come. Another positive development is the improvement that Georgia has brought about with regard to its business climate. This is reflected in excellent scores in the Transparency International Corruption Index. And may I say, you are ranking even higher than some European Union countries. And the same applies for the World Bank Doing Business Index. As a result, foreign direct investments are currently solid in Georgia, and investments from European Union member states account for almost half of total foreign direct investments in Georgia. Ladies and gentlemen, let me assure you that I am fully aware that visa-free travel for Georgia continues to be a top priority for the government. Georgia has fulfilled all its obligations under the Visa Liberalization Action Plan as confirmed by the European Commission already in December last year. This is truly a great success and a credit to the respective Georgian governments and their reform-oriented administration that made fulfillment of the Visa Liberalization Action Plan a top national priority, supported, if I understand rightly, by all main parties in the country. Facilitating people-to-people contacts is a commitment of the European Union towards its Eastern partners with direct impact in areas of economy, culture and education, and I am looking forward to the day when Georgian citizens will be able to travel to the European Union without a visa. And I believe we are not that far away from that day. This is in my briefing. Be reassured, it will be at the latest in October this year. Let me now turn to the third part of my opening remarks. Economic development is at the heart of the EU's contribution to stabilizing the neighborhood and building partnerships. To achieve this challenging objective, our partner countries need to make every effort to have the fundamentals, this kind of fundamentals in place. These fundamentals are political stability, sound economic governance, strong market institutions, and an enabling environment for the private sector. There are two issues to which we pay particular attention. First, tackling corruption, and second, judicial reform. These are, honestly, make or break issues. If they are not successfully addressed, nothing else can succeed. Legislation is worthless if it's not upheld by the courts. No amount of deregulation will compensate for corrupt practices. We also support reforms to create a business climate in which enterprise can flourish and put in place an accountable and efficient public administration that really works. It's important here to cut red tape with a view, for example, to facilitating and accelerating the granting of permits and licenses to companies. And here I want to underline the essential role for small businesses in building modern economies due to their capacity to innovate and adapt to fast-changing markets, but also because small and medium-sized companies are the backbone of an economy, and those are the, so to say, areas where jobs are safeguarded and even better created. I mean, I'm always present a rather naive calculation, but I think in a way it's impressive. In Europe, we have currently 21 million unemployed people, but we have 23 million small and medium-sized enterprises. So if only each already existing small and medium-sized enterprise would hire, employee one unemployed person, the problem of unemployment would be resolved. Of course, this is, so to say, a vision or an ideal, but on the other hand, it explains the potential of small and medium-sized enterprises, because if you leave, or you would leave this issue to only the biggest 500 companies in Europe, they have to employ, I don't know, 50,000 unemployed people in each company, which is even theoretically unrealistic. So this shows once again the importance and relevance of SMEs, and therefore only 2 days ago in Kiev, together with my colleague Commissioner Bieńkowska and ministers of economy from all Eastern Partnership countries, we have discussed how to unleash the potential of small and medium-sized enterprises. In all Eastern Partnership countries, SMEs represent the vast majorities of companies. Of course, this is a pattern like in all the other countries. However, their contribution to the GDP is still very low, 30% compared to 60% of the EU average. Moreover, the majority of SMEs are very small companies working in low value-added sectors. We need to work together to improve the potentials of SMEs to create wealth and new jobs in the region. Finally, I would like to briefly dwell on two, in my view, most important assets the region has for further economic development. First, highly skilled and educated workforce, which contributes to moving towards higher value-added production processes. A highly educated population is also a key asset to position the region as an innovation or logistic hub. Second, the geography. Georgia is at the crossroads between the East and the West, but we should not forget also between the North and the South, between Europe and Asia. But the geography of Georgia provides also for a great role to play in stabilizing the region building confidence and economic integration. European Union is already assisting you in this endeavor, especially in the area of connectivity. The objective is to work more strategically, focusing on implementing priority projects to improve transport and energy networks, to facilitate connections and remove bottlenecks. To conclude, there is still a lot of work ahead of us, but Georgia is not afraid of taking on new responsibilities and new challenges for itself and the region, in the interest of its own citizens and, I have to say, also of the citizens of the whole region, and in the hope of a better future for all of you. So I am looking forward to continue working together to extend the benefits of the European path to all Georgians, and I am sure that we can continue the way we have started a couple of years ago, and there will certainly be a successful end in another couple of years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Thank you for the encouragement. Thank you for the recognition of the hard work of Georgian government, Georgian society in implementing this important work towards transition. With that, before concluding our first and opening panel, let me remind you of the very powerful instrument that we have at hand, the gadgets, to use the hashtag BATUMICONFERENCE16. And please feel free to tweet, feel free to share the thoughts, the ideas, and the important observations that you might have during these 2 days of the discussion that we have ahead. With that, let me call the first panel to occupy the seats, and with that, join me in thanking the keynote speakers for their addresses.
Hello? No. We then have Istvan Mikula. He's the State Secretary for Security Policy and International Affairs at the Foreign Ministry of Hungary. And finally, we have Jaroslav Ludva. He's the Junior Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs in the Czech Republic. Gentlemen, thank you for coming. It is a very interesting time in European affairs. As I've said, the Slovakians have just taken over the presidency, their first time at the helm, and of course with a lot of say over EU policy for the next 6 months. It could be one of the busiest 6 months in the EU's history. As a Brit, I have to apologize for the stupidity of my fellow voters in the referendum and the distraction it may pose to the rest of Brussels. Though it was wonderful to hear the Prime Minister this morning talk about how important the EU is and how great it is as an institution. It's always quite upsetting. You have to leave the EU to hear about how great it is, whereas inside we don't normally talk about it enough. We're going to start off with Mr. Speaker. I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about how important Visegrad-Georgian cooperation is and what are your sort of hopes, if you like, for the next 6 months?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I want to welcome everybody, participants of this conference, which is held on 13th time in this beautiful city. And every time we come here and talk about Georgia's European way, we are discovering some progress. And I'm glad to hear all the concrete issues which Prime Minister of Georgia presented. And I'm glad to note that Mr. Commissioner agreed to that Georgia is making very good progress on that way, and we are continuing our journey to Europe. At the same time, every time we come here, we see that the world is keeping changing. And it's not only Georgia which is changing to the right direction, it's the rest of the world and Europe which is changing to right directions, mostly. But sometimes, yes, we do have some feeling that the things which we believe left behind during these 13 years are emerging or re-emerging in other places around the world. That suggests that, yes, we are part of the one world, and Europe, Georgia, and other countries around the world, yes, we are part of the one civilization, and we share successes and challenges as well. So at this point, when we see the current Georgia and current European Union, we could not think of a better presidency of the European Union than Slovak presidency, and I want to tell to our Slovak friends that yes, we have great expectations from their presidency. Why? Because they understand probably better what the Eastern Partnership means, what the Eastern Partnership needs, and why it is so important for the European Union as such. At the same time, probably it would be difficult to imagine better timing of having Slovaks as presidents of the European Union, because they are probably best experts in Europe in peaceful political divorce. And when we are talking about Brexit, and well, it should be implemented, we hope that both sides, United Kingdom, European Union, under the leadership of Slovakia, will find best possible way to implement the decision of the British people, which probably most of us here disagree, but it's decision of the sovereign country, that this will be done in the best possible way, which will keep contact. What we expect from the Visegrad Group, yes, we expect the same which we were expecting during last 25 years. And Georgia was so lucky to have these countries being united in this Visegrad format immediately as Georgia became independent. So our journey in establishing in this very complex world, when we tried to establish ourselves as independent country, and we were seeking friends around the world, yes, Visegrad Group countries, individually and as a group, were always with us, and that we have high expectations in the future as well. Why high expectations? Because the role and importance of this region, of those countries, is growing. Because from here, from Georgia, we feel that kind of political gravitation center is moving to east. And these countries are going to play more and more important role in strengthening the European Union, in taking the leadership in many areas which European Union badly needs leadership, and these countries will be the very kind of on frontier of all the challenges which the European Union has. And for us Georgians, who are probably more patriots of European Union than many countries inside the European Union, of course these things are so important and so vital. Therefore, yes, our expectations are high. Well, I, as a Speaker of the Parliament, can underline the already established very good cooperation between the respective parliamentary units, foreign relations committees of those countries, and Georgian Foreign Relations Committee, European Affairs Committee. And during the last 2-3 years, we achieved quite remarkable success on that way. And there were memorandums of cooperation signed. We had this opportunity to participate in the meetings of Visegrad Group countries when the politicians meet, and Georgia is invited there. Our members of the parliament, respective committees, have the opportunity to attend. And this is so important because we understand that Georgia's integration to European Union means not only more Europe in Georgia, but it means also more Georgia in Europe. And more Georgia in Europe means that we will be taking part in discussion about Europe. We will be sitting in the panels like this, not only in Tbilisi, but in other countries as well. We will be dealing with European affairs, which sometimes do not affect immediately and directly Georgia, but we have to be engaged in those affairs. And we need to have more and more people, politicians, some other professionals from different fields of policy making, who will be able to contribute, to understand what's going on in Europe. Commissioner Hahn here mentioned here some very important things about technical standards which should be implemented in Georgia, and we are doing our best on the legislative level, on the implementation level. But those standards must be understood by concrete people, and we are ambitious people, probably, who have come in Georgia not once but twice. You would notice that. And we have this ambitious, yes, we want to participate, we want to have our say, we want to have our ideas, we want to have our, I don't know, sometimes to be tough, we have some disagreements on certain issues. For that we need knowledge. And the knowledge which we are getting and the experience we are getting from Visegrad Group countries, I don't want to forget many other countries who are doing an equally important job for us, but this group and this format, of course, has special importance, and that's why I'm talking on that, and this is the subject of our panel today. And this cooperation between parliamentarians, I'm stressing on that as a representative of Georgian Parliament, has huge importance. At the same time, of course, there are other things we expect from these European countries. This is kind of the urgency, the sense of urgency to do something about, I would say, #1 problem, not only for Georgia, but for Europe as well. And that #1 problem is called Russia. We do not want to export our problems to European Union. Of course, this is our huge issue, and we are thankful, we are glad that our European friends were with us all the time, and they are with us now. But now I'm talking not about problem of Georgia. I'm talking about problem of European Union. And that's something which must be understood better than sometimes we see it from Brussels or from some other capitals. When we hear statements like, well, we have to live with Russia. Yes, of course, we have to live with Russia. They are there and they will continue being there. But do we really believe that Eastern Partnership Program or association agreements will be finally successful if, in parallel, things like in Ukraine are happening? Can we really think that if there is a player who is just out of order, who is just not respecting the basic fundamental rules of the current world system, is continuing acting like it is acting, and we can be successful? Probably no. In this regard, we expect from the Visegrad Group countries, who experienced the most, I don't know, inhuman political system which world had for so long period of time, communism or communist rule. Well, probably we Georgians and our friends from Visegrad Group countries understand better what are the reasons, what are the deep problems from this country, from this system, and therefore they will be more responsive and devoting more and more time how to cope with this problem. Thank you.
Speaker, thank you very much. I look forward to hearing your response to your fellow panelists. Rudolf, no pressure. This is you couldn't think of a better country to lead the presidency at the moment with great expectations. What does Slovakia have in store?
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Speaker, for those nice words. Exactly, I want to tackle on that. Yeah, you said A, and you should also say B. The A was, yes, you cannot imagine a better time to start the presidency of Slovakia. B is, there's no worse time probably to start a presidency with. I hope you agree with me because Slovakia has been preparing for presidency, I'm telling you, for about the past 2 years. Those countries who held the presidency, they know what I'm talking about. The whole structure of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the whole structure of certain bodies has been changed, and I can assure you that Slovak presidency is ready to take on, and it has taken already. I hope quite successfully. When I was preparing for what to speak first round of this panel, I had two choices. Well, first of all, I could start boring you with the 4 priorities of the Slovak presidency, which I will mention. Hopefully, I will have time for that. But that's probably not the aim of this panel. So I decided to say something what I believe should be our presidency about. And there's one thing that I believe it should be about. It should be about this one statement, and that statement goes, let us save Europe, let us protect Europe, and this in order to keep making Europe a better place to live for us and for our neighborhood, and I believe even globally. This is essential these days. Europe is kind of losing its pace, it's losing its power, so it seems. I don't subscribe to that. We have had problems, Europe, it is true, but the whole world is in turmoil, and the question is now why? Is it, and now let me say about the Western world more than about the rest of the world, what is really going on? Is it that we do have crises in European Union? Is this really our fault only? Is it the fault of Brussels? Is it the fault of the national government? Or is it something else? Is it something that comes globally? That means, this is a problem of the elites of the Western world? I believe that is probably the problem. And probably we should be looking at how to tackle that problem. That comes from social media, for example. Now it's very easy to read all the negative news on daily basis, basically, coming either from really our countries or coming from the East on purpose. So the question is, where is democracy taking us to? Is it taking us to more free world, or is it taking us somewhere back? Is too much democracy too much for us? Can we handle democracy? I think, does it come to degeneration of liberal values in our systems? I do not have answer to that one, but I think this is where the question really lies. If we answer this question, then we can answer probably also what to do with Brussels, what to do with our national countries, and where to move on. We are building our Europeanism, let's say. We are the new countries. We for new countries, relatively new countries, not really anymore, but let's say one of the newest. There are the old countries. What? All right. But truly, does a French what does a French person perceive by being a European? What does a Belgian, what do you think about what makes you European? What makes me European as an Eastern or Central European? It's much easier in America. Americans has been building this notion for past, say, 200 years. Europe is so diverse that being European means having certain values. I guess this is what we should talk about. But people don't understand this. People understand more simple stuff. We should get more back to people and explain them what it really means to Europe and what it really means and what we want to tackle in our presidency are things that you can easily answer. Coming to really basic stuff, when you travel from Slovakia, say, to Austria, you fund for prices that you have in Slovakia. Those are basic things that people are interested in. That makes you even European. I know it's not a value, but it's something people understand. Let's make Europe popular again. This is what our presidency wants to do. We want to start with economy, of course. Economy. This was one of the reasons why Brexit happens, because the Britons feel that economically they will be better. Some of the Britons feel that they will be economically better off. So we have to tackle economic and monetary union, of course, to spread it. Information, digital single market, and so on. Those are the popular things that we can address within the next half year. That I believe that. And one of the biggest problems, of course, is asylum and migration. This will be a huge challenge on us. We will need help of all our partners within the union, but I believe we are able to handle this. We already have started with guarding the borders and selecting who comes, who goes. Simply what we say, and I think you subscribe to that too, as the V4 countries, we have to make Schengen working as it was planned to be working. And the last thing, and that involves also Georgia, and that is Europe as a global player. Again, we want to involve the neighborhood countries. We want to involve the associate countries, those countries who want to get involved in EU, and that's the case of Georgia. So much for the start, if that's okay with you.
Rudolf, thank you. I mean, for me, the worst thing about Brexit is that I might stop being invited to moderate such interesting panels like this, sort of on the edge of Europe. Jarosław, Poland has, for the last 5 or 6 years, been a very big player in Brussels in terms of what's the policy agenda. You've just taken over the Visegrad presidency. Where do you see the role of the Eastern Partnership and associate countries and enlargement in Poland's agenda?
Okay, of course, the Visegrad Group could be and will be give all possible support to Georgia, to Ukraine and Moldova for your aspiration to, for your European aspiration. But in my opinion, the crucial is the questions, what is possible and how great is the power of Visegrad Group to be useful for your aspiration. I'm afraid that Eastern Partnership in the future will be, maybe I exaggerated, suspend, because in this time Eastern Partnership is not in fashion, is not in the trends in Europe, because Europe have 4 great problems. The first is immigration. It shifts the attention to the south. The second is Brexit. The third is necessary discussion inside Europe about the future shape of EU. And it will be discussion full of energy. And the fourth is a tension that after the crisis in Europe, I'm afraid that every country inside EU is more egoistic. And the result of it, for example, our point of view to relation with Russia is not the same. Some countries' answer is business as usual, you know, Nord Stream 2, referendum in Holland, and the rest try to show that the sanction is very important because Minsk 2 is not a fulfillment. We have 5 priorities of our presidency in the Visegrad Group. The first one is strong voice of the Visegrad Group in EU. And the second is creative synergy through extended dialogue. In this priority is also the space for Georgia. The rest is not important for our discussion. I'm afraid that in this time for Visegrad, the first priority is absolutely the most important, because we want to have influence on the shape of EU. And we're afraid to answer, which could be a danger for us. One is answer that more integration, it means also more unification. Of course, in detail, could be better or worse, but we are afraid that some economical answer would be not good for our situation. We are poorer part of EU. And it means, in long term, we will be close in the trap of middle level, middle GDP, middle salaries. It is danger. The second answer is that Europe could divide it. It will be not one speed. It may be better in economical level, I'm not sure, but it means we are on the political periphery. Also danger when come back to the problem of relation also to Russia. And a little bit this aspect, and you also know that in this time, I think relation Polish government with Brussels is not the best. Maybe Hungary is in better situation. But also when I am in Council of Europe and when I see the reaction for the same answer of Czech Republic and the same answer of Denmark, the treatment, the attitude is absolutely not the same. And it means we must be together, we must have influence of the shape of Europe. But what this means for Eastern Partnership? Of course, we will engage, we will try to help, but it will be not so easy for us when we look at the situation inside the EU. What is the optimist elements? When I think about NATO summit in Warsaw, okay, I believe this summit show unity and decrease the possibility of aggressive policy of Russia to not only to NATO countries, but also to countries of Eastern Partnership. It's good. But on the other hand, from Georgia and Ukrainian point of view, and also I think our dream, we can feel a little disappointment. When I try to find something good for Georgia, I'm afraid Georgia must wait for window of opportunity. And maybe the chance, the challenge, but also the threat is the new situation in region. After migrants crisis, the position of Turkey increased. Russia in Syria, Barack Obama invited Iran come back to the world stage, and in this region will be new equilibrium. And this is the challenge for Georgia. And still one, it is chance, it is threat. But maybe this is the element of play, and also Visegrad Group should show to the rest that Georgia is a very important country. In the last remark, the small but not small for citizens. We must support, and we will support the visa liberalization for Georgia citizens. We know that Georgia have done a great job for last years. Congratulations. Your position, economic by law regulation, also your activity inside EU is very interesting, full respect. And of course, I believe Visegrad Group, Baltic State, Sweden, Romanian always will support Georgia aspiration. The limit is only our possibility and our security, of course. But I believe Visegrad Group will be more and more important inside EU, and it means the door for Georgia will be more and more open. Didi Madlova.
Thank you, Jaroslav. Round of applause from the room there. Istvan, are these what's just been mentioned there from Jaroslav, are those things that you agree with, that Budapest agrees with, that the Hungarian government sees as also challenges but also opportunities for Georgia, or do you think there's a slightly different view?
I would like, I tried to gather our statements and I tried to gather our opinions after the Warsaw Summit. I took part on the Warsaw Summit, so I have some new information about it. I would like to thank you for the invitation. I took part the last year conference here too, and I have some experiences about this roundtable discussion, so I would like to read some very important sentences. I think that they are very important in these subjects. As I mentioned just like last year, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to be here again. That's very important for us, for Hungary. This conference respects a good tradition, and I am glad to discuss Georgia's European way again this year. Looking back to the recent decades, I have to state that we indeed live in historical times, because we think we live in historical times. Not only from a V4, but also from a European and a global perspective. 2016 is a special year for Central Europe. We celebrate the 25th anniversary of the V4. That's a very important organization for us, and for Georgia, that will be a very important organization for Georgia too. Our four states look back at this historic quarter century proudly. Through common successes like joining the European Union in 2004, and also through tough lessons like overcoming the effect of the global economic crisis, we have strengthened our voice and launched joint projects benefiting our citizens. During all these years, the V4 gained a wide range of valuable experiences and know-how in this field of political and economic transformations, a piece of knowledge we also share with our Eastern partners. Just to mention one example of the V4's knowledge sharing, we have been organizing multiple conferences in Ukraine on the V4's experiences in different subjects. This spring, for example, we discussed and shared our experiences related to promoting small and medium enterprises, the role of the small and medium enterprises on the sustainability of the economic prosperity. I would like to mention that Hungary is a small country. We have no fossil fuels, no minerals, we have knowledge-based capitals. We think so. We have Nobel Prize winners, 13 Nobel Prize winners, and we would like to share our knowledge-based capital. We would like to build into the global value chains with our knowledge-based capital. So we are very sensitive towards the sharing of the knowledge-based experiences. That's why I emphasize this item. So I am pleased to say that cooperation has become business as usual in our region, which is a major achievement, especially because our continent is facing multiple crises which will substantially affect the EU and also its neighborhood. The situation in eastern Ukraine, financial volatility, economic and social tensions, and frozen conflicts in the region represent major challenges for the European Union. At the same time, the shift of the EU's attention due to the migration crisis necessitates clear demonstration of the EU's continued commitment towards the success of Eastern European countries. The Brexit makes this even more pertinent. That was one of the most sensitive subjects on the Warsaw Summit last week too. While Hungary fully respects the sovereign decision of the UK voters, the outcome of the referendum is also unfortunate in a sense that the V4 countries could always count on the UK's leadership and support to keep the EU's focus on the eastern dimension of our European neighborhood policy. So we are a little bit sorry about this Brexit situation now. but we don't know about the consequences of this decision. Despite all these challenges and emerging shift, it is important not to lose sight of our common long-term endeavors, such as the EU's successful neighborhood policy, and especially the Eastern Partnership. The V4 has been consciously contributing to Europe's stability and prosperity by supporting our eastern and southern extended neighborhood. Therefore, a strong V4 is in the interest of not only the 4 countries involved, but our eastern partners as well. As Slovakia's first EU presidency began just July, a Central European country is once again leading the EU. This means that the V4 is now in the position to work even more effectively for common goals with our European partners, also as regards the Eastern Partnership. That's a great responsibility. Hungary now has no presidency, no in the V4, no in the European Union. That's an interesting period for us. Beyond that, I am also pleased to mention that after the V4's very active Czech presidency, the Polish presidency has an ambitious program focusing strongly on the Eastern Partnership. The Eastern Partnership should remain the strategic direction of the European neighborhood policy. Speeding up reform efforts, strengthening stability and security in the region are crucial. Given that the main topic of this conference is Georgia's European way, please allow me to share some thoughts on the Georgian achievement as well. Georgia has achieved major results in the modernization process and has become one of the frontrunners within the Eastern Partnership. Its commitments and tangible achievements in the EU integration should serve as a positive example to other countries in the region as well. We encourage Georgia to maintain its focus on core reforms aimed at achieving a stable macroeconomic environment, improving business climate, enhancing the rule of law, as well as closer sectorial cooperation with the EU and its member states. The results of the ongoing political and economic transformation of Georgia, as well as Ukraine and Moldova, I would like to emphasize, will have a major impact on the future of the Eastern Partnership. Georgia's geopolitical and geostrategic location can be used in establishing a regional hub role and thus further promote its key partner status in the South Caucasus region. Finally, please allow me to emphasize that we welcome that the EU-Georgia Association Agreement has fully entered into force as of the 1st of July. This is one important step in your European integration process, and more should follow. Hungary would like to support Georgia with the experiences before the joining of the European Union and after the joining to the European Union. We have good and we have bad experiences too. We are very interested in best practices. I spent 4 years in Paris in the OECD. I was the ambassador of the Hungarian delegation there, and we gathered the valid data, we gathered the best practices there, and we have some knowledge how to implement, how to adapt to the different situations, the best practices. That's not easy, but we would like to share our experiences towards the V4, towards Georgia, and towards the future of the European Union, because the open door policy of the European Union, the open door policy of the NATO is very important of our countries, of the European Union, and of the world too. Thank you.
Istvan, thank you very much. Finally, Yaroslav, the Czechs used to have the presidency of the V4 in the first half of the year. We've just heard from Yaroslav about the Polish idea of how V4 and the Eastern Partnership should work. How did you find it in the first half of the year? Was it troubling? Was it easy to get things done, or was there this mix of optimism and challenges that we've heard here? Is V4 doing enough, I suppose, is my question.
Thank you, Henry. I am the last in line, and so there is almost no substance except for the one you have asked about, and that's what I'm going to focus on. And actually, it's not just a half a year; it's the whole year, because
Sure.
the presidency starts at the 1st of July and goes to the end of June of the next year. And I would like to share with you our experience of the past 12 months, and I think we 4 countries can do a lot for Eastern Partnership. In a way, we share We can share, I mean, we four countries, we can share our new experience we have gained in EU and especially the way to EU, the way to European integration with our Eastern partners, neighbors. It was mentioned by Istvan, a colleague of mine. We have been together to many places in Eastern Partnership for many months, and we have had very good experience. It was mentioned in Ukraine. We prepared sort of V4 roadshow, and I think we can focus on other countries as well with this program, including Georgia, because Georgia is quite ready for this. So I would share briefly the experience from Ukraine. We have held over past 12 months 4 different seminars, 4 different V4 roadshows in 4 different places. We started with political consultations in Kiev, and then we went to places like Lviv, Chernihiv, and the last one, Hungarian SMEs, was in Ivano-Frankivsk, correct. So it was very good experience because we addressed not only the central government, but we addressed the local governments, local administration as well, and we involved NGOs into dialogue and discussion. And there was a follow-up, so it was a very good thing. We focused on SMEs, education, local administration, good governments, education. So this is a very good tool how to help. And I think what we should do is to focus now on Georgia more with this program. I don't want to be an advisor to Polish presidency, but like I say, it was a good tool and good experience. That's what we can do formally. But there is also kind of informal support, because all of us, because of our common past, common experience, we are strong supporters and advocates in EU for Eastern Partnership countries. It was mentioned by Yaroslav, our support for visa liberalization for Georgia. We are all on the same page in this respect, and we are strongly supporting Georgia in this respect. It's a kind of procedure, suspension mechanism, and so on, but we understand very well Georgia's position, Georgia's feeling, and I must say Georgia has done very well in this respect, indeed. So there are many informal meetings within EU, and we understand better than others the position of the partnership countries, and it's our duty to help them. Back to formal meetings, because we used to have during past months many formal meetings with countries like Benelux, Nordic countries, and so on. And during these meetings, we discuss Eastern Partnership as well, and we are trying to picture a real picture about these countries, and we are trying to help to better understand the others, the situation in Eastern Partnership countries.
Is Europe on this, or are the V4 countries on one side and the Western countries on another? Did you sense a European consensus?
Well, yeah, we are trying to reach a consensus. Sometimes it's kind of more difficult. It's a prolonged dialogue, a long discussion, but at the end of the day, in most of the cases, we are on the same page, and that's important, So, formal, informal, we are pretty much involved in both of them, and we are here to help. So, I wish all the best to Eastern partners, and especially to our host today, because it's also my second attendance of Batumi International Conference. I attended last year. I see a huge progress and a much bigger audience than last year, good preparation. So thank you very much for being able to be here, and I am ready to answer your further questions. Thank you.
Jaroslav, thank you. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Yes.
We've heard a lot of comments there from your colleagues. A lot of good noises, I suppose, talking of a duty to help and optimism and support, but at the same time, some realism, I suppose. I mean, your Polish colleague spoke of the Eastern Partnership not being in fashion at the moment. I mean, how do you see the current position of Europe? Do you understand why that there are certain issues that are stopping the Eastern Partnership progressing? Do you empathise with them, or do you think that Europe's dragging its heels?
Well, first of all, it should be underlined that Georgia probably has the least arguments to be dissatisfied after this process, because Georgia is widely considered as frontrunner in this process, and we pretty much achieved, or will very soon achieve, the benchmarks which we had in these relations for these years. Therefore, formally, probably we have no reason to be kind of not satisfied how finally European Union, together with we four countries, friends from Baltic countries, from Scandinavia, from Western Europe, yeah, finally it goes to the direction. But on the other hand, we, Georgia, we are not just Georgia. We live in this world as well, and we are located in our region, and we are part of this Europe, globe, and so on and so on. Therefore, we judge the policy towards Georgia in the context. And that context, of course, is not quite satisfactory. Because we believe more could be achieved in relations with other Eastern Partnership countries. We believe there was pretty much of inconsistency, not consistent policy. Sometimes democracy agenda being on the top of decision making, sometimes democracy agenda disappearing completely and security agenda taking over completely, sometimes both disappearing and some personal or whatever European politics agenda would take over, and so on. And I believe it hurted the process, and I believe lots of things which could be achieved were not achieved. We understand the phrases from our friends who say that, okay, we are with you, but we can only so much, because it's not only us who make decisions, it's not only Georgia which is on the plate of foreign policy agenda of each country here, it's not only Eastern Partnership which is problem for the, is on the agenda of European Union, and so on. We understand this completely, we understand that, but on the other hand, we want to see more leadership, because what is lacking sometimes is the leadership. And it has nothing to do with the issue which was mentioned by our Polish colleague about egoism or egoistic approach and so on. Well, without egoism there is no progress. And without egoism there is no politics. And politics based on the charity, yeah, okay, we can discuss here on the gatherings like this, but then we go on real issues, and policy based on the charity is not something which works. Yes, and that's the key. And we need to be stronger, and we need to be providing stronger leadership in explaining our people that yes, it is in the best interest, stronger European Union, larger European Union, stronger European Union in foreign policy issues, and convincing people that this is, yes, better for them. And if we behave as we see sometimes some leaders behave, when they say that, well, you know, people want something else, therefore I follow. You know, among those people there will be thousands of the individuals who can just follow the people where they want to go at this concrete time period. We are talking about political leadership when you strongly believe something and you spend, I don't know, 48 hours in 24 hours to convince people, to explain, to lead, to motivate, to energize. Yes, what what this kind of discourages sometimes us is lack of energy, lack of belief, lack of kind of strong aspiration to very basic fundamental issues of European Union. Because the European Union, yeah, for us and for everybody, it's not geography. It's much more. And in this globalized world, yes, we need to accept that. This much more is pressing us. Because in globalized world, Europe cannot be kind of safeguarded by external borders, as we called it. Therefore, these are new challenges. It's very new thing for us Georgians as well. We have to solve our pressing issues of security, economy, and everything. We are trying to apply more and more resources to these kind of things, and we expect from our friends the similar approach. We do not believe in miracle. We are waiting for window of opportunity, but we are not just waiting. We are kind of having some tools in our hands, and we are making this small window large enough to go through.
To get questions from the audience in about 5 minutes. If you do have some, please think of them. Do you recognize that fear that we're lacking leadership and energy in the European Union? Do you think that's a legitimate concern?
Absolutely, it's legitimate. I worked before 4 years in Turkey, and I kept hearing that all the time. Same thing in Turkey also. This nervousness, this lack of interest. Of course, when you live in the country, you think this is the center of interest of all the world, and that's how it should be. This is your role. This is your role to knock the door all the time and remind us, because we have so many other problems, but remind us all the time of your fears, of your requests, and it's up to us to listen and deliver. That is absolutely normal. So I recognize this is what you say, Mr. Speaker. I understand that. Yes, you say what we can bring as to Eastern Partnership. What is our position as a Slovak presidency to current Eastern Partnership? We do feel that there is something wrong with the current state of Eastern Partnership, and we want to think all together how to proceed, what to do next. If there is something wrong, that means something is not working. We have a train. We have 2 trains basically. Well, I would say even more trains maybe, but let's focus on 2 ones. One is going for the 3 of the countries too fast, and the other one goes too slow. And on the front of this train is of course Georgia, that is very vocal about this one, and we go too slow about this. I recognize this, yes. So then we got another country. We got Moldova, for example. That is lacking what probably Georgia has can travel without passport with no visa to Europe. So there's some discrepancy in this. We would try to handle this during our presidency, and I do personally believe that it will be during our presidency that the citizens of Georgia will travel freely to Europe because they do deserve it. There's no fear from our side. I don't think anything bad happens when you start traveling, and students can freely go and see the countries, get experience, come back and work with this experience. Same with scientists, businessmen. They are all welcome, and vice versa. Our people come in here too. So that's one experience that we can bring. We need to put more dynamism in Eastern Partnership, and maybe make a tailor-made policy toward those countries that really run faster. And one of those is definitely Georgia. I think this is what we should focus on during the next 6 months. You were mentioning divorce. I just want to, very, very briefly, yes, we are masters of divorces, close to 50% of divorce rate in Slovakia. I think Czech Republic has come very close to us. But we are proud of, I don't think we're proud of being divorced from Czech Republic. What we are proud of is how we did it. So it's not what we did, but how we did it. We're proud of. We're not bringing you any know-how, no way. I mean, saying this in a country where 20% of the territory is occupied, I don't think it's the right way. And before, again, I worked in Cyprus. Again, it was probably not the best thing to say. But there was, for example, idea from my side. We're handling bi-communal meeting of the political leaders in Cyprus. And my idea is, why not to think of something like this on territory of Georgia, you know? I got the green light from your government, basically, but I got a red light from the occupied territories, actually. So unfortunately, it didn't work. But there are things we can bring here, definitely, even from our own Czech and Slovak, for example, experience.
Jaroslav, if I may, just to bring Brexit into this, do you think that Brexit means that passion inside Brussels for deepening the Eastern Partnership is falling? Do you think that it will be a wake-up call for those who are against greater integration, greater expansion?
The patient degrees, yeah?
Yeah.
Yes, in my opinion, shift to the south, because now it's a big challenge with immigrants. And it's not only the problem of immigrants, but also the problem about democratic system inside EU. And this is the real problem. And when we focus on our problems, we have less power for the rest. And maybe good answer for Europe, but I think it's not real, is to be more open. Because I believe that Georgia in EU, it means new fresh air. Than Euromaidan in Kiev show the people for whom the EU is not normal, but is the situation, but is the value, is a dream. And I think Europe needs a vision, an enthusiast, and more democratic in Brussels. But I'm afraid that now is time in a sinusoidal unification and more egoistic policy. Now it's time for more thinking about myself, about my country, than about the common business, means EU.
Istvan, on Jaroslav's point there, I mean, your Prime Minister has been one of the most vocal in calling for less Europe, if you like, less Brussels, less of the institutional power and more power to the states. Does that not put in danger things like the Eastern Partnership? Because that's naturally something that's organized in a central way. I mean, how do you balance those two issues? You know, less Brussels, but more power over expansion and
That's not an easy issue, you know, but if you allow me, I would like to make a short comment to the egoism phrase, you know, because I totally agree with that. We are interested in our country's condition, you know, but that means, the egoism means us to sustain our economic prosperity, to sustain our well-being in the population, to manage to handle our universities, our identity, and so on and so on and so on. So we think the European Union contains sovereign countries. That's a union, not a United States, but a European Union with this very colorful identity, colorful culture, colorful behaviors, you know. That's a fantastic potential synergistic effects are among those different things, you know, different issues. So we are interested in the egoism, but as the part of the member of the European Union. The membership in the European Union is very important for Hungary. You know our history. After Trianon, we lost the two-thirds part of the Hungarian territory, two-thirds part of the Hungarian nations. We are just the country, the only country that have around the borders Hungarian populations, you know. And the membership in the European Union means us to be able to gather over the borders our culture, to gather our families, you know. And I don't want to follow it, you understand. We are very interested in this position to be the member of the European Union. But Sometimes we are really critical to the European Union management. We would like to reorganize the decision-making system, to reorganize the role of the Council. Frankly speaking, we would like to reorganize that. That was the aim of the Great Britain approach too, the Great Britain essence. So that's why we're sorry about the Brexit, you know, because we worked together with the Brits to work out programs how to renew the European Union decision-making process, how to renew the management at the top of the European Union, what about the Brussels administration. But we are member of the European Union, and these critics are inside the European Union. That's a positive approach, we think so. And we are optimistic now because that's a historic time. That's, frankly speaking, that's our approach, and that's the answer of that.
And Jaroslav, finally, I mean, over the last year, I suppose, in the Visegrad Four, the Czech Republic's emerged as perhaps the most pro-EU government in a classical pro-EU sense. Do you have any worries in Prague that this egoistic, maybe more introverted look that's coming in some of the capitals endangers things like the European partnership? It makes us too close-minded and not expansionist. Is that a fear in Prague?
Like it was said, at the current time, the Eastern Partnership is probably not on the top of the list, but it's a long-time procedure, and we must be trying through our job, our homework, to help our Eastern partners to get closer to Europe, and it's a daily work. Like within the V4 framework, you know, we have tools, and we should go on. And our situation can change, but we should go on with our daily work. I would like to mention one important tool that V4 possesses, and this is International Visegrad Fund. Within this fund, we are providing dozens of scholarships every year, not only to students, but we have, for example, civil servant mobility program, which helps to build public administration capacities in Eastern Partnership countries. Once again, we are talking about dozens of scholarships in this respect every year. And this is the progress we should continue, and we should go on with our daily job.
Do we have any questions from the audience? If you could, thank you. If you could introduce yourself, a very brief question, and say who it's to in particular. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bogdan Klich, the minority leader of the Polish Senate. I would like to deepen this idea presented by our Hungarian colleague and to understand you better. When you say that the European Union needs a leadership, I agree with you. Recent years, these are years of the lack of efficient European leadership, political leadership. But when you speak about, let's say, necessity of changing the decision-making system of the European Union, I have a feeling that there is a contradiction between this stronger leadership that you would prefer and the rules within the European Union, because those rules would need more Europe within the European construction. But you said at the beginning that there is a need of underlying, of enhancing sovereignty of the states. So if you are so kind to explain this contradiction that I see in your presentation, it would be important, because this is the debate going through Europe as a whole.
It's a fantastic question.
I think there is a professional leadership that is able to handle, as I mentioned, this colorful, culturally very interesting, diversified organization that means the European Union. And we think in Europe, in the European Union, the real surviving potential means this, in quotation, biodiversity in the European Union. The biodiversity means the colorfulness of the different members of the European Union. So we can imagine, and we would like to support a new management, a new leadership that is able to handle this situation. Different cultures, politically, different cultures, different identities, and to use the common basis, the common essence of the European Union, because the European Union is based on the Jewish Christian culture. That was the will of the founders of the European Union. We remember the first documents about this. So we can imagine a new management, and we would like to construct, we would like to support a new management that is able to handle this special situation. That's just only one in the world. The European Union and Europe is a very interesting place of the world with these unity, colorful compounds. No, we need a legal framework. Believe the management has contained this approach. There is no antagonism in this respect.
That's a fantastic question. More of the same, if there is no more questions, come on. There must be at least one question. Here we go, the lady in the 6th row at the end. There's a microphone on your right. Oh, here we go.
Thank you. Good luck with to Slovakia for the EU presidency, and as well as to the Visegrad Group for the chairmanship. And my question will be following. So in this, as they say, turbulent EU world, how do you think, from your perspective, what will be Slovakia's policy when there will be an issue of expanding economic sanctions on Russia, and if there will be united position within Visegrad Group on this issue? Thank you.
Sure. Slovakia stands behind the sanctions, as you know. European Union will review the situation, fulfillment of the Minsk agreements. And based upon this, we will decide. I think there's as planned as possible, I could say. If there is any progress on the side of Russia, I don't see any reason to prolong the sanctions. If they don't comply with our ideas, with our conditions, I guess the decisions on the 28th will be again blunt, and we will continue on this one. There's not more to say, I guess, in this respect.
Jarosław, can I ask, will that be a priority for the Polish presidency of the V4 to ensure that sanctions remain in place and there's unity amongst all four of you?
From Polish point of view, Minsk II is empty, and therefore sanction could be continued.
Istvan, can I ask you too? I mean, there was noises out of Budapest, Rome, and Athens that maybe this was the last round. Do you think that it could be extended again?
What does it mean, noises?
Noises, chat, sources on background.
You know, as I mentioned, we are a member of the European Union. We are a member of the V4. And we are, from morning till night, like to harmonize our different approach. That's a very interesting, very intellectual task, you know. And that's valuable now, because the V4 is a very important political organization of the European Union. And we are together able to support as I mentioned, to rethink the European leadership, the decision-making, the role of the European Council, to sound the different opinions, different approaches, and to have a management that is able to harmonize, that is able to handle, to manage these different cultures and different approaches. You know.
But does Hungary think sanctions should be re-extended in the winter against Russia?
The Russia issue is a different one, you know, and the Ukrainian issue is a different one. I took part on the Warsaw Summit, as I mentioned, and that was a very sensitive issue, mainly the Ukrainian situation, you know. And you know, Hungary has a common border, a 100-kilometer common border with Ukraine. And as I spoke about it, there's a Hungarian population too, and there's a Polish population too. So we are very interested in to manage the situation. We need a consolidation in the near future, because the situation is dangerous now. And we are interested in the integrity of Ukraine, the well-being of Ukraine, because that's a very important country before the western and eastern part of the world. And we have to emphasize that we lost markets in Ukraine and in Russia too.
Sure.
Until the Ural, the Russia part of Europe, so we are interested in a consolidation, we are interested in a well-being of the Ukrainian territory, and would like to support the programs towards that, because there are very good programs.
Well,
good programs, and we are not too optimistic, but there is a chance to consolidate the situation in the near future.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to ask you just to very, very briefly sort of sum up how you saw the discussion, how you, in terms of future progress of this V4-Georgian relationship.
Well, to sum up what we heard from here is that Georgia is better off. We have promised that our friends will continue helping us. However, the worrying news or worrying conclusion is that it's not clear what is going to happen within European Union itself. Our promise to our friends is that we are still heading to Europe, no matter what are the challenges which are already there or what will be there probably in the future. And we are determined to be part of positive things which is happening in Europe and part of negative things as well, and we are determined to be a contributor of solving those things together. We are ready to take responsibility, not only just benefits from European integration. So that's kind of our very firm belief. But at the same time, there are issues on which we Georgian politicians are a little bit reluctant to say our opinion, because there are already 28 minus 1 geniuses sitting around the table, convincing each other, drawing some brilliant ideas to each other. And, well, what is needed here is least needed, 29th one from Georgia coming and saying, no, it's not right, it's wrong, and so on. It's not nice to see. But since I am not representative of Georgian government, I'm just member of the parliament and can allow myself more, especially because there are just 3 months left until the election, so I can allow myself even more. By the way, I want to promise to our friends that there will be very good elections in Georgia in October, and this is our part of job which we need to perform. And there will be pro-Western, pro-European majority and government in Georgia, no matter what will be internal composition in this majority and so on, and this is good news. But I want to say that the impression sometimes we have is that some countries, nations, politicians decided that kind of major problems are already dealt. European Union kind of already did what had to do. Now we are kind of strong enough, wealthy enough, kind of institutionally well-functioning enough, and now we can take less share of responsibility about something else. Well, we from Georgia believe that that's not probably the case. And the threat to our all well-being is there, and it is very realistic. It's not just migration from south, it's aggression from the east. Again, I don't know what on the earth could happen more than what happened in Georgia and then especially in Ukraine, to realize that those borders which our Hungarian colleague was referring to is under danger. Those sovereignties of the countries which we are going to protect with weaker European Union is under danger. And probably this is something which should direct us to different kind of egoism in positive sense of this word, that yes, we need protection and we need regional and international institutions more in order to protect our small, medium or bigger countries in coming future, because it is not guaranteed. And when we talk about European Union, which could be less integrated, however, NATO, which should be more integrated, well, in real life, probably it's not going to work, because it's us who divide our life and describe with this terminology. European Union, Council of Europe, Commission, Council, NATO. In real life, life is one. And you cannot do this integrated process with European Union and hope that in NATO affairs there will be everybody helping to each other, sacrificing, increasing their defense budget, sending troops when it is necessary to send, and so on and so on. Therefore, I believe the threat is not over. And NATO, European Union, other organizations were created in order to protect the best interests of our countries and nations. And if now it seems that, well, this problem is not my problem because I'm somewhere a little bit far from the kind of turbulent zone or the zone where might come or aggression comes and so on, well, now everything is happening so fast. Therefore, yes, we are advising, if we may, from our side, to think about stronger Europe, not about weaker Europe, because weaker Europe will become even more weaker in coming future.
Final comment?
I would like to add or to highlight or elaborate on two things which have been said by the speaker. First of all, I agree that we in EU have been for past few months totally focused on migration, you know, and absorbed all our capacities, you know. And now it's Brexit, but we should be aware that it's not only one or two dimensional, you know, the external issues, and we should still be aware of the Eastern security issue, you know, it's very important, I agree with it. And then I would like to highlight two words mentioned by the speaker, responsibility sharing, which I think is a cornerstone of every relation with you. And I'm very glad to hear that, because it means that Georgia is a partner. It's not just knocking on the door, but Georgia wants to contribute and is aware of the need of responsibility sharing. Is very important. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Lots to discuss over coffee. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your kind attention, and thank you to the panelists, to David, to Rudolf, Yaroslav, Istvan, and Yaroslav. Thank you.